A real guide to being happy, truly and always. There's a version of happiness that many people spend their entire lives chasing. But no matter how fast they run, it always stays just out of reach, like a shadow in the distance, a mirage on the horizon. Something they can almost see, almost touch, but never quite hold. It's the kind of happiness that's built on conditions, on checklists and expectations, on everything we were told would make us happy if we just worked hard enough, looked good enough, achieved big enough. Dear friend, share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Turn on notifications so you never miss an update that shows you are divine one. This isn't just another video for the feed, but another piece of content to scroll you share. This was made for someone like you in mind, someone who's tired, maybe not in body, but in spirit. Someone who needs to hear that their quiet strength matters, even when it's unseen. It takes the shape of a job title you can brag about at dinner parties, a salary that looks impressive on paper, but comes with no peace of mind. A relationship that looks beautiful to outsiders, but feels hollow when you're alone together. It lives in curated photos, carefully posed smiles, and moments that feel more like performance than presence. This version of happiness is tied to the external. It's attached to recognition, validation, and applause. It relies on how others see you, on whether they admire you, envy you, accept you. And here's the thing. Sometimes it does work, at least for a little while. The promotion gives you a rush. The compliments feel good. The success makes you feel worthy, even powerful. But the feeling fades. Always. What was once exciting becomes your new baseline. The praise slows down. The attention moves on. The person who once made you feel whole begins to feel like a stranger. And in that quiet, you start to feel something deeper. An emptiness you can't explain. A restlessness that success can't soothe. A loneliness that no amount of attention can heal. Because what you were chasing wasn't happiness. It was approval. What you thought was joy was just temporary relief from your deeper fears. The fear of being unseen, the fear of not being enough, the fear that if you stopped running, everything would fall apart. But here's the truth. That kind of happiness is not sustainable. It's exhausting. It asks you to constantly perform, to constantly prove, to constantly compare. And even when you win, it doesn't let you rest. Because now, you have to keep winning. It turns life into a competition, a race with no finish line, a game where the rules keep changing and the prize never satisfies. But what if happiness isn't meant to be chased? What if it's not something you catch, but something you create? What if the real mistake isn't that you're running too slow, but that you're running in the wrong direction? What if the kind of happiness worth having doesn't come from being impressive, but from being authentic? Not from being admired by the world, but from being at peace with yourself. Because eventually, you realize that success without inner stillness is just noise. That being loved for a version of you that isn't real feels lonelier than being alone. And that chasing happiness on the outside will never fill the silence within. Real happiness doesn't come from more. It comes from less. Less pretending, less performing, less depending on the world to tell you that you matter. It comes when you stop running and start listening to yourself, to what you need, to what you value, to who you really are beneath all the masks you've been told to wear. Because the truth is, the happiness you're chasing out there, it's been waiting for you in here, within you, all along. Here's something we don't talk about enough. A lot of what we call happiness in today's world isn't really happiness at all. It's not peace. It's not joy. It's not that quiet, rooted sense of contentment that holds you steady through life's storms. It's something else. It's relief, temporary, fragile, fleeting. It's the sigh you breathe when the pressure lifts, if only for a moment. It's the distraction that numbs the ache of loneliness. It's the dopamine hit that masks the deeper void of self-doubt. It's the comfort you find when something external finally goes right, because internally, everything feels so out of place. We scroll through photos, we collect likes, we buy things we don't need, we check boxes, we hit goals, and for a few hours, maybe even a day, it feels like happiness. But then it slips, and suddenly you're empty again, waiting for the next win, the next affirmation, the next person to tell you you're enough. That kind of happiness is like a sugar rush. It gives you a spike, then leaves you crashing. It feels good, but it doesn't last. And worse, it convinces you that happiness is fragile, that it can be taken from you at any. It's the kind of happiness that remains even when the world around you is uncertain, the kind that doesn't need a reason to exist. It simply is, because you've learned how to build it from the inside. It's not the highlight reel kind, not the Instagram perfect airbrushed smile that hides the sleepless nights, not the curated version that thrives on filters and validation. No, this is the soul-deep kind, the kind that lives in the way you talk to yourself in the dark, in the peace you feel when you've done what's right, even if no one claps for it, in the strength to walk away from what dims you and walk toward what aligns with who you truly are. This is the kind of happiness that stays, not because life is always perfect, but because you've learned to stop outsourcing your peace to things you cannot control. This guide, this path, is about cultivating that kind of happiness, the quiet, powerful joy that doesn't beg for attention because it doesn't need it. 1. Understand yourself before you try to fix yourself. If you truly want to build a life rooted in joy, not just fleeting excitement or external comfort, but real, sustained happiness, you have to begin with something deceptively simple and often overlooked. Know yourself. Deeply, patiently, compassionately. Not in the shallow, surface-level sense of knowing your favorite color or your Enneagram type, but in the soul-deep way of understanding why you are the way you are. As the Greek philosopher Socrates once said, "Know thyself." For to know yourself is the beginning of wisdom. And without wisdom, there can be no true happiness, only temporary pleasure and confusion dressed up as joy. Most people aren't miserable because their lives are truly terrible. They're miserable because their relationship with themselves is broken, because their inner voice is relentless, harsh, and unkind, because they've internalized shame that was never theirs to carry. They've mistaken survival patterns for personality flaws. They've confused being wounded with being wrong. They wake up every day feeling like they're behind, like they're not enough, like they have to fix themselves to be lovable, acceptable, or worthy. But the truth is this: you cannot heal what you refuse to understand. And you cannot understand yourself if your first instinct is to judge. Before you rush to fix yourself, pause. Get curious about your pain instead of being ashamed of it. Ask questions, not to condemn, but to understand. Where did this fear start? What triggered this reaction? What belief am I carrying that isn't actually mine? What am I trying to protect with this habit, this anger, this withdrawal? You'll often find that the parts of yourself you want to fix are not broken at all. They're responses, adaptations, old armor that once kept you safe, but now keeps you small. You may realize your perfectionism was a shield against criticism, that your people-pleasing was an attempt to earn love, that your silence was a strategy to avoid conflict in a world that punished your voice. This kind of awareness is the root of transformation. Because happiness isn't found in constant self-improvement. It's not a checklist, not a personal development race. It's found in self-acceptance, in the moment you stop seeing yourself as a problem to be solved and start seeing yourself as a person to be understood. Growth is beautiful, but only when it grows from love, not shame. You cannot hate yourself into a stronger, wiser, better version of you. You cannot criticize yourself into peace. You cannot bully yourself into healing. You can only love yourself there. With patience, with compassion, with the kind of gentle honesty that says, yes, this needs work, but you are still worthy now, as you are. Real happiness is not the destination of becoming someone else. It's the discovery that you are already someone worth knowing. And from that place, from that solid foundation of inner understanding, you can begin to grow. Not because you're unworthy, but because you finally see how worthy you've always been. 2. Detach your joy from the outcome. If there's one reason so many people spend their lives feeling disappointed, disheartened, or disillusioned, it's because their joy is hooked onto things they cannot control. They believe happiness will come when they get the promotion, they meet the right person, they finally feel seen, validated, or successful by some external standard. But what happens when the outcome doesn't match the vision? What happens when the job falls through? When the relationship fades? When the path you mapped so carefully twists into something you never saw coming? Here's the truth, uncomfortable but necessary. Life does not owe you your expectations. It never promised you linear progress. It never guaranteed that everything you build will last forever, or even go as planned. And so, if your happiness is welded to outcomes, you will feel perpetually at war with reality. Philosopher Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, offered this timeless wisdom. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. When you tie your peace to outcomes, you surrender your emotional life to forces that don't answer to you. You become a hostage to chance, to people's opinions, to metry, to results that often lie far beyond your influence. But when you detach, when you learn to care deeply about your effort, not just the end result, you become unshakable. Joy begins to live in the process, not in the performance. It exists in the doing, not in the reward. You learn to appreciate the climb, not just the summit. You take pride in how you show up, how you give, how you try, how you grow. You begin to ask, did I act with integrity? Did I give my full presence? Did I stay honest to myself, even when it was hard? This mindset doesn't kill ambition. It purifies it, removes desperation, and replaces it with dignity. You don't stop aiming for success. You just stop needing it to feel okay. You become someone who can enjoy the building even when the structure isn't finished. Someone who can find meaning in the run, not just the ribbon at the finish line. Someone who finds peace in the present moment, because their worth isn't tied to whether or not they win. That's when you know you're free, and that's when happiness becomes real, because it's no longer on a leash held by chance. 3. Do the quiet work that has loud rewards. In a world that glamorizes speed, noise, and public validation, it's easy to overlook the quiet work, the invisible disciplines, the silent, uncelebrated choices that shape the soul over time. Most people chase the obvious. They chase what shines. They chase what posts well, what earns applause, what gets recognized. But true happiness doesn't come from applause. It comes from alignment. It's born in the moments when you choose reflection over reaction, stillness over stimulation, courage over comfort. It's the decision to read when your brain craves the mindless scroll, to journal your chaos instead of unleashing it on others, to take a deep breath when everything in you wants to scream, to go for a walk when your thoughts are racing instead of drowning in distractions, to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. These practices won't trend. They won't earn you followers. No one will congratulate you for them. But they are the foundation of an inner life that is strong, stable, and steady. Because these small acts build something sacred, self-trust. And self-trust is the soil from which all peace grows. As the Taoist philosopher Lao Tzu once said, "He who conquers others is strong. He who conquers himself is mighty." Conquering yourself doesn't mean forcing yourself into perfection. It means choosing the higher road again and again when no one is watching. It means doing what's right for your spirit, even when your ego resists. It means honoring your future self more than your craving for instant gratification. This kind of discipline feels invisible at first, but over time, it begins to echo through your entire life. You stop lashing out. You start thinking clearly. You begin to feel whole, not because everything is perfect, but because you are showing up with integrity. That's where real happiness lives, not in the spotlight, but in the quiet promise kept, the consistent choice to be better, not louder. You may not get a trophy for these habits, but what you do get is far more powerful. The kind of peace that doesn't come from being praised, but from being proud of how you live, moment by moment, day by day. Let go of the illusion that happiness lives in the when. We've all whispered it to ourselves at one point. I'll be happy when I finally get the promotion. I'll feel better when I lose the weight. I'll be at peace when they understand me, love me, see me. This internal narrative, quiet, persistent, and often unquestioned, is one of the greatest illusions we carry. It creates a subtle but powerful delay between life as it is and the joy we believe we're allowed to feel. It trains us to believe that fulfillment is a future event, something we must earn or unlock through achievement, validation, or external change. But here's the hard truth. If you cannot find peace here, in this ordinary moment, in this in-between stretch of your becoming, you will not suddenly find it. Happiness is something far more courageous. It is a practice, a deliberate, daily choice, a commitment you make, not to deny reality, but to meet it with resilience, perspective, and grace. It's not about living a life without sadness. It's about not letting sadness be the whole story. It's not about eliminating struggle. It's about learning how to move through struggle without letting it harden you. It's not about achieving some flawless emotional state. It's about building the capacity to return to center again and again, no matter how far off track life takes you. Happiness is a quiet strength, rarely loud, rarely dramatic. It's the strength of choosing to breathe through discomfort instead of running from it. The strength to speak kindly to yourself on the days you feel unworthy. The strength to celebrate small wins, to keep showing up, to believe in joy. Even when everything in you is tired. It is not passive. It is not automatic. It is created in the tiniest of choices, in the decision to pause instead of react, in the refusal to let bitterness define you, in the courage to rest when your mind screams for more productivity, in the power to say no when your peace is on the line, in the grace to say yes to joy, even when your heart still remembers pain. And perhaps most importantly, happiness is not always a feeling. Sometimes it's a decision you make in the dark, a quiet rebellion against the part of you that wants to give up, a whispered reminder, I don't have to be perfect to feel whole. I don't have to have everything to feel enough. So no, happiness isn't luck, and it isn't found. It is built, deliberately, patiently, and courageously. by the way you choose to live, love, think, and return to yourself every single day. That's the real work. Not chasing joy, but becoming someone who can carry it. Gently, steadily, even through the storm. If this resonates with you, share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update.